Courtney Bowen of First Presbyterian Church in Jackson, Tennessee, and this is our Practicing Our Faith series. So today I want to talk about journaling. When we started this series, I considered talking about journaling, and then I decided against it because I thought, I know journaling is something that not everyone really enjoys. And so I just decided to put it to the side. But then over the last few weeks, it seems like everywhere I go, I hear people talking about journaling, whether it's been on podcast or webinars or in my daily devotionals that I'm reading. Just everywhere I turn, I hear about journaling. And so it started to feel like, well, maybe I need to talk about this. So that's what we're going to do today. Personally, I love journaling, and I think it can be a really powerful practice. It helps us, I think, to process our experiences. It helps us to make meaning out of our experiences, to make significance out of our experience, and that can be a real gift. So one of my favorite scriptures is from Luke 24, and it's the story about the walk to Emmaus. And so in this story, Jesus has been crucified and just risen from the dead that morning. And while some of the women have seen him and they've told the disciples have not yet seen him. And so they're still grieving. And anyway, two of the disciples are walking along this road to the city of Emmaus, and Jesus comes along and starts to walk with them, but they don't recognize him. And he asks them what they're talking about, and they say, well, we're discussing the things that have happened these last few days in Jerusalem. And Jesus says to them, what things? Now, Jesus knows better than anyone what things have happened. I mean, they happened to him, but he asked them, what things? And they actually just stop moving. They stop moving forward. There's some real symbolism there. So they stop and they start to tell him all the things that have happened. So what Jesus is doing in this story is actually giving the disciples the space to process what they've been through. He gives them the chance to talk about it and to explain what's happening in their own words, to process what they've felt. And so he listens to them, and only after they finish telling him these things are they able to start moving forward again. And so they all start walking along together, and it's then that Jesus opens up the scriptures to them and explains the scriptures to them. So, I mean, it's this really symbolic story that as the disciples are able to process their experiences, it's only then that they're able to hear the voice of God and to start to engage with the scriptures. And it's the same way for us. Sometimes we just need to tell our story, to process, to start to make meaning out of our experiences. And it's only as we're doing that or after we do that that we're able to really hear what God has to say to us. And I think it can be a real gift to have that space to process. I think it's a gift that God gives to us, and it's a gift that journaling can give to us as well. So that's why I think it's just so important for us to do this. Just recently, I was listening to a webinar, and there was this psychologist on it who was talking about the practice of journaling. And he was saying that, in our both world wars and in Vietnam, journaling was pretty common among the soldiers. And so, they would write in their journals to process what they were experiencing. And so this psychologist was saying, that we should be doing the same thing right now during this time of pandemic, that we should be processing our experiences through journalism, and that we could even think of our journals as our battlefield letters. And I just thought that was so beautiful and meaningful. So, as you're journaling during this time of pandemic, think of it as your battlefield letters. And finally, the thing that journaling can do for us is as we go back and read our journals, and I was just doing this the other night as I was preparing to talk about journaling today. I went back and read my journals from, I think, from 2017, and it can be a really powerful experience. Um, it just helps you to see, with sort of 2020 hindsight, like you get a clearer picture of what you've thought before, of what you've been through, of what you've done, and it helps to see where God has been in the midst of all that you may miss, in the moment while we're living this. Sometimes we miss God's presence, but when we go back and look, we realize, oh, that's where God was. It's sort of like the story of the footprints in the sand that, as we're going through the turmoil, we don't always notice that God is with us. But when we look back, we see that, there's only this one set of footprints in the sand, and that's where God has carried us. So that's what journaling can do for us. So I hope that you take some time this week to journal, to process, all that we've been going through these past couple of months with this pandemic, to see, where God is in the midst of it, to see how maybe you are changing and growing during this time. Um, and that you find some meaning and significance in that, and that you can really enjoy the gift of space that journaling provides and that God provides. So hope you're staying healthy and happy, and we'll see you back here next week. Until then, peace be with you. Amen.